Hello, dear friends. As usual, myself, Wonderful Banerjee. I'm back to your channel, that is Hospitality Education PPT. This channel is your channel, your classroom beyond your normal classroom. And in this channel, normally we discuss about all the burning topics which you are undergoing in our 3-year degree course of hotel management or hospitality management, whatever you say. Now, as you all know that in our previous sessions, we have discussed about the basics of facility planning. There we have learned about uh, what is a project network, and ultimately we have learned what are the basics way the project can be crashed. We have discussed all the basics. We'll take it further. This is our sixth lesson today under the series of project network management and analysis, and we are going to discuss another one very vital area for the day. We'll take up a crashing problem and understand the basics on this. Okay, so I welcome you all to this channel, that is Hospitality Education PPT. In our previous session, we have discussed what is crashing. The concept of crashing was made clear. Then understanding the concept also, what is the concept of crashing, and then the aim of crashing, how it is related with cost and project duration, the relationship, we have discussed that. And also we have illustrated the crashing process. That was our learning. Now today, our scope of study is very interesting. We'll take up a network crashing problem. Whatever we have learned on these days, we'll try to apply those step by step. That means step involved in systematic crashing. And also, we'll try to crash the project depending upon the problem we are going to mention. And finally, we'll learn and we'll apply the knowledge of how to calculate the total cost and duration of the project after each crashing and total crashing. Okay, so here we go. Now, let us take up a problem. The problem is there on your screen now. Here you can see one tabular format is given where few columns are there. Activity, all the list of activities are here. Here it is given in terms of the node 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 2 to 4, 2 to 5, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, like that. And their corresponding normal time. That means to complete this activity 1 to 2, you require 8 days or 8 hours, whatever way you say that you need. But normal time is duration is 8. Similarly, 1 to 3, the duration is 4. Normal duration I am talking about. Normal duration for 2 to 4 activities is 2 days. Similarly, 2 to 5 activities 10 days. 3 to 4 activities 5 days, and 4 to 5 activities 3 days. And here it is the cost involved in each activity to complete it is mentioned. And if you go on adding these, you'll get this 580 rupees figure. That is the cost of completion of the activities in a normal situation. Okay. Very next two columns is mentioned about the crash. Under crash, you are getting two sub columns. One is the time column. That means after crashing, the duration will reduce to 6 days. Initially, it was 8 days. After crashing, it will be 6 days. Similarly, for this activity 1 to 3, normal time was 4 days, and crash duration, after crashing, the duration will be 2 days only, and like that 1 day, 7 days, 1 day, and 1 day. Here you can see the activity 2 to 5, it was normal time given 10 days. After crashing, it will come down to 7 days. Now to do the crashing, the way it is mentioned, to do that you have to employ more resources in terms of money, in terms of manpower, in terms of machinery, and the cost will be like this. There is also corresponding cost will be mentioned. That means in this first instance, instead of 8 days, if you want to complete the activity by 6 days, you have to invest 200 rupees cost for that. You got my point? Similarly, for the activity 1, 3, the normal time was 4 days. If you want to complete it by 2 days, then you have to invest 350 rupees cash cost for that. Like that, if you involve the cost in crashing of each activities the way it is mentioned, then your total crash cost will be 1280 rupees. This is a problem given. Network is given. Now, what is to be done by us? What is expected? First of all, this is known as the time cost data of a project given. Time cost data is given. That is usual. Now, what we have to do? Draw the network diagram of the project and identify the critical path. Clear? Remember, we have told you how to do that. We have shown you how to calculate the slack, how to calculate the relax. Before that, the earliest start time and latest finish time, forward method, backward method, all these things we have discussed. And we have also mentioned earlier that we have learned those basics. However, those things are not elaborately yet to be applied. We will apply the basic path method, critical path method that you are going to apply out here. Anyway, and it is also mentioned that indirect cost, that means the overhead cost, is rupees 60 per week. That means 1 week you crash or 1 week you work, your overhead cost will be rupees 60 only. Overheads, indirect cost. Fine. And what is to be done by us? Determine the optimum time duration of the project, firstly, and the cost associated with the crashing of the project. Okay, first you have to find out the critical activity, then you have to find out the total duration of the project, then how the crashing will be done step by step, and ultimately at the end of the day, what will be the crashing cost or crash cost of the project that you are going to find out, and that is expected in this particular problem. Okay, let us go and solve this problem by applying all our knowledges, whatever we have learned before. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is that draw the network and find the critical path with normal times and normal cost for the activities and identify the critical activities. That is the first part. So whenever the chart will be given to you, we have to first draw the network. That will be one part of the question, and depending on that, we'll find out the critical activities. So let us do that. Okay, fine. First is, here it is given 1 to 2. So I take node 1 and the activity is getting completed in node 2. Okay. Normal time is 8. Then another one, 1 to 3. That means starting from node 1 going to node 3. Normal time is mentioned 4. So it is 4 written out here. Then next activity is 2 to 4. 2 to 4. You can see 2 to 4. This is the activity. What is the duration? Normal duration is 2 days or 2 weeks, whatever. Then 2 to 5 activity, 2 to 5. This is another one activity, 2 to 5. Duration is normal, 10 weeks or 10 days, whatever. Then another activity is 3 to 4. These 3 to 4 will join these two. Normal activity time is 5 days. 5 days. Then finally, 4 to 5, it is 3 days normal time. So 4 to 5. So this is your network. Network is drawn. You can see this network. There is no loop. There is no dangling. It is starting from node 1 getting completed at node 5. Okay. There is no dummy activity also out here. It is a very simple network we are taking for the best understanding of the problem, how to apply the crashing process. Right. Now, What will be the next step? To find out the probable paths. Probable path means if you start your activity from node 1 to reach to the end of the project, that is node 5, how we can reach from 1 to 5. Now let us see the probable path. We can see in this diagram, one is that 1 to 2, 2 to 5 we can go. That can be one path. Then also another one path is there, 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 5, another path, and then 1 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, another path. So these are the three total paths, probable paths available in front of us. So 1 to 2, 2 to 5, as I have mentioned. Similarly, 1 to 2, 2 to 4, and 4 to 5, 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 5, another one path, and finally 1 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, another one path. Now let us calculate the corresponding duration to complete this path. In the first case, 8 plus 10, 18 weeks or 18 days. In the second case, we can see 8 plus 2 plus 3. 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 plus 3 is 13. 13 days or 13 weeks. And then third one, 1 to 3 is 4. 3 to 4 is 5. And 4 to 5 is 3. So these are altogether 12 days. Then which one is the critical path? And we all know that the longest path in the network is called the critical path. Okay. What is the longest path? So 18. That means 1 to 5 is the critical path. 1 to 5. 1 to 2, 2 to 5. Rest all the paths are non-critical path. Okay. So accordingly, I have made these path colored to make you understand that this is different from the other path, because 1 to 2, 2 to 5 is the critical path. It can be indicated with a double arrow as well. Okay, fine. Now then what is your project duration? And we can see that critical activities are 1 to 2, that is one critical activity, and 2 to 5, this is another one critical activity in this small network. Then what is the duration? Duration of the project is 18 days. That we can find out 18 days. Fine. And what is the normal cost that is mentioned? Normal cost is, direct cost is 580 rupees. Direct cost means this is the amount to be consumed to complete all these activities involved directly with the activities. So direct cost. So this is our first finding. We have calculated the critical path and the project duration. Clear? Now, next is we have to calculate the cost slope, because in our network it is given that if you crash the activities, then crash time is this, cost involved is 2 rupees. We have to find out the cost slope. What is cost slope? The crash cost per day. Crash cost per day. That means if you want to crash a particular activity by 1 day, you have to give that much cost extra. And if it is to be crashed for 3 days, then that extra cost will be multiplied by 3 days to find out the total cost, crash cost of that. You got my point? Okay. Now, cost slope or crash cost per day, we had one formula to calculate that. What was the formula we have discussed? Crash cost, CC, minus normal cost, CN, then normal time, Tn, represented by Tn, and minus crash time is Tc. So crash cost minus normal cost divided by normal time minus crash time. This is, let us take up the example now how to calculate the cost. In the first instance, 1 to 2 activity, crash cost was 200 rupees. One thing you have to notice always that crash cost is always more than the normal cost. That is very much visible because in some cases, suppose one activity is getting completed by 2 days. Now you want to complete that activity by one day. Then you have to do what? You have to employ more cost over there in terms of manpower maybe, or getting better equipments with more capacity. So whatever you do, cost will be involved. So obviously your cost will be higher than your normal cost. So that's why it is higher always. So in this example, in 1 to 2 activity, if we take crash cost is 200 rupees minus normal cost is 100 rupees, that is 100 rupees minus divided by normal time. Normal time was 4 days, crash time was 2 days, then it is divided by 2 days. Calculation you can find out. Now if you calculate in that way, ultimately this will be the cost slope for all the activities enlisted there by applying these formula only. You got my point? And we can see that this is in the first activity for 1 to 2 activity, it is 50 rupees is the cost of, that means crash cost per day. 100 rupees is the next 1 to 3, the crash cost per day. Similarly 40, 80, 25, 30. Now the point is that if you want to, what is the meaning of crashing? Means to reduce the project duration. It can be by one day, can be by 2 days, or whatever the management thinks, accordingly it will be done. Suppose you want to complete the project instead of 18 days, in this project it is 18 days duration, you want to complete it by 17 days. Then you have to reduce it by one day. Then the point is that which activity will be reduced by one day? Is it the critical activity or non-critical activity? Now, critical activity is what we know, it is the longest path in the project. So, and non-critical activity is not the longest path. So, if we reduce one day of activity or any of the activity on the non-critical path, it is not going to affect the project duration. Simple. Let us see. Suppose 1 to 2, 2 to 4, and 4 to 5 is one of the non-critical activity. It is not a critical path. And you want to reduce this 4 to 5 activity by one day instead of 3 days, you want to complete it by 2 days. If it is by 2 days, then what will be the project duration? Let us calculate 8 days plus 2 days, 10 days plus 2 days, 12 days. But our critical activity duration is, according to that, the project duration is 18 days. So it is not going to hamper, rather not going to help you in reducing the project duration of the project network, whatever is given to you. That means if you want to crash the number of days, it has to be done on the critical activity, not on non-critical activities. So in that way, it becomes little easy for us now. Here we can see we are having only two activities which are critical by nature. So either you have to reduce it here or in both. Am I clear? Now, then how to start with? We'll start reducing these 10 days, these activity to 5 or 1 to 2. Which one? Is it according to my thinking, or it should have a proper systematic? That's why you have used the term systematic crashing. Now to do that systematic crashing, we have already calculated the cost slope or crash cost per day, and it will be always better to start the crashing in that activity where the crash cost per day is less. Okay, so there should not be any unnecessary expenditure then. So then, in this case, we are having two critical activities, 1 to 2, 2 to 5. What is the corresponding cost slope? 50 and 80. Now we have to find out which one is less out of this and number them accordingly. So select the critical activity which has a minimum cost slope for crashing. You got my point? Accordingly, if we do that, we can see that these 1 to 2 activities are critical and it has got a cost of 50 rupees. And 2 to 5, it is also critical. The cost of here is 80 rupees. So obviously 50 rupees is lower. It is number 1 and then number 2. So our activity of crashing will begin with first 1 to 2 activity, and then after completion of the entire crashing, possible crashing, will go for 2 to 5 activities, not with any other activities. Got my clear? Got the point clear? So I repeat once again that first of all you are going to calculate the critical activities, the project duration will be coming out accordingly. We already know the normal cost of the project, direct cost. Then we'll calculate the cost slope of each activities. Now, once you calculate the cost slope of each activities by applying the formula, then find out which are the critical activities, and crashing will be done on the critical activities. Why? Because the non-critical activity, whether you reduce it by 1 day or 2 days, it has got no reflection on the total duration of the project, because critical activity path is the longest path of the project. So whatever you want to reduce, you have to reduce it on the critical activity only. And how, which critical activity will be chosen first? Which has got a minimum cost slope. In this case, 1 to 2 is minimum, that is rupees 50, and rupees 80 is the next one. So this is the way you have identified how it will be crashed. Clear? Now, if you have any questions after this, definitely are going to put me in the question box or the comment box. Now, we are going to start the crashing problem. Before we go for the crashing problem, how to solve it, we have to draw this chart. Our table should be created and the columns will be like that. First will be the crashing column, then all the parts in respect to your network. In our network, we are having only 3 parts, that's why these 3 columns are there. In your project, if you are having 4 parts or 5 parts, accordingly those 4 or 5 columns will be created. Then one is the direct cost. Already I have discussed about the cost structure earlier. Other one is the cost slope, that means crashing cost per day, and then indirect cost involved. And finally, if you calculate these 3, you will be getting the total cost. Fine. Now, in the first instance, let us see what are the critical path. Critical path 1 to 2, 5, 1, 2, 4, 5, 1, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So let us again go back to the table. So 1, 2, 5, one critical path. Then 1, 2, 4, 5, another one probable path. And 1, 3, 4, 5, another one probable path. Okay. Now, before crashing, what was the duration? Duration for 1 to 2, 1 to 5 is 18. Then for this path it was 13 and this path was 12. So actual project duration is 18 days. What was the direct cost? Direct cost was given 580 rupees. It was given to you. As because there was no crashing happened, so cost slope is 0, no crashing cost involved in normal cases. Indirect cost is what? Your overheads per day, indirect cost per day multiplied by duration of the project. Your duration of the project is 18 days. It was given in your problem that 60 rupees per week is the overhead cost or the indirect cost, and you have to calculate these 3. If you add on these three, whatever will come, that will be your total cost at present in a normal situation. Okay, got my point? Now we'll do the crashing. To grow the crashing, we have mentioned that first we'll start do the crashing of 1 to 2 activity because it has got a minimum slope 50. It was mentioned that normal time was 8, crash time will be 6. That means it is possible to crash it by 2 days only. Okay, let us do the crashing by 2 days. One day, step by step. So first crashing is done. You have to write down first crashing of activity 1 to 2 by 1 week. You have written that. If you reduce it by 1 week, what will be your project duration? 18 minus 1, 17. It will come down. In this case also project duration will be reduced because 1 to 2 is another one path involved in this probable path. So in this case it will be 13 minus 1 day, 12 days. And in this case there is no critical path. So naturally it will remain 12 days only. Got my point? I'll repeat. 1 to 2 is one of the critical paths. And in this probable path 1 to 2 is also involved as a critical path. So if you reduce 1 to 2 by 1 day, so obviously it will have effect in both the areas. Here 18 minus 1 day, 17 days, 13 minus 1 day, 12 days. Here there is no change. In this case, what will be your total cost? Let us calculate that if you have crashed it by 1 day. First of all, direct cost will remain 580. Then you have crashing it by 1 week. 1 week crashing involved rupees 50. 1 week crashing 50 multiplied by 1, that is rupees 50 is the crashing cost incorporated. Then what will be the overhead cost? Now your project duration is 17 days. Every day you require, every week you require 60 rupees as your indirect cost. So that 17 multiplied by 60 is 1020. So what will be your total cost if you add on these direct cost plus cost slope plus indirect cost? It will come down to 1650. So in normal situation, your project cost was 1660 rupees. After crashing it by 1 day in one of the critical activities, it has come down to 1650. Okay. Now, if you remember, it was mentioned that it can be crash time is 6 days. That means 2 days maximum we can crash this activity. Right? Already we have crashed it by 1 day. That means 1 day more is possible. So second crashing, again the same activity 1 to 2 by 1 more week. So earlier it was 17 days. Now it is getting reduced minus 1 day, 16. 1 to 2 is also involved in this path. So here also the duration will be reduced 12 days or 12 week minus 1. That means 11 week or 11 days, whatever. Here obviously there is no reflection because that path is not involved in this. So here it will remain 12 days. Then what will be the cost? You can see that direct cost will be 580 as usual. Here again you are reducing it by 1 day, 1 week. Your every week cost slope is saying that to crash it by 1 week you have to invest rupees 50. So 50 multiplied by 1 week, that is 50 rupees again involved. And your now overheads will be, it is no more 17 days, it is now 16 days project duration. So project duration 16 days multiplied by rupees 60 is your indirect cost, altogether 960. And if you add on these three costs, your project cost will be coming down to rupees 1590. So your normal cost, if you look at it, was 1660. Now after crashing it by 2 days, it has come down to 1590. Clear? Now 1 to 2 is, it has come down, it was, if we go back, we'll see that normal time was 8 days, crash time is 6 days. So already you have crashed this activity by 2 days. So no more crashing is possible on this activity. Then we have to go to the next minimum slope. Next minimum slope is this 2 to 5. It has got 80. So you have to crash it now. Again, how many days crashing is possible? Normal time was given 10 days. Crash time is 7 days. That means 3 days crashing is permissible. Your crash cost is rupees 350, 340. Cost slope is 80. Remember this figure. Okay. So now we are going to crash 2 to 5. So third crashing of 2 to 5 by 1 week. So initially it was 16 days. Then 16 minus 1 week again 15 days. In this case, in this path, there is no 2 to 5. So it will remain 11 days. In this path also, there is no 2 to 5 activity. So it will also remain 12 days. What will be the cost calculation? As usual, now you know, direct cost is 580 was given. Here the crashing cost or cost slope is 80 rupees. 1 week we have crossed. So 80 multiplied by 180 rupees involved extra. Your indirect cost is, now it is 15 days duration. 60 rupees is the cost involved in that per week. Total is 900 rupees. And total, if you calculate, you'll get 1560. So it is again getting reduced. So 2 more days crashing is possible on activity 225. So it is a fourth crashing activity. And it is similarly 14 days is the duration. Now 1 day is 1 week less. Here there is no 2 to 5 activity. So in these two cases there is no changes. It will remain unchanged. Your cost will be 580 plus 80 rupees multiplied by 1 week, that is 80 rupees. Again you have to incorporate. Your overheads will be less because now the duration is 14 days. 60 rupees is your overheads per week, 840, and your total cost is coming down to 1500 project cost. Now last crossing, 1 day crossing is available that we can do. The final crossing, fifth crashing, 2 to 5, because if you remember it was mentioned that 10 days normal time, 7 days crash time. That means you had only option for 3 days to crash the activity, right? So already you have crashed it by 1 day, 1 week and 1 week more. Now this is a final crashing, and here project duration 14 minus 1 13. There is no change. There is no change because that activity is not there in these probable paths. Here the calculation is very easy now. 580 normal cost, direct cost, 80 rupees your cost slope per week, and your project duration is now 13 days. So 13 multiplied by 60 is 780. So this is your project cost now after crashing it by final day. So now you see that presently after crashing, this is your total project cost after crashing the project with a possible way. And your now project duration is this 13 days. Initially we started with 18 days. Now after crashing our project duration has come down to 13 days. Initially 18 days, the total cost involved was 1660. After crashing it is 13 days duration and cost has reduced to 1440. So in both the cases it is beneficial for you. That's why you go for project crashing. You got my point. So our problem is solved. What we have learned, how to do the crashing of the project, and we have discussed each area and how to calculate it. Very easy. If you go through it once again, it will be very easy. This session will be there in the YouTube anytime. You can take it out. And thank you very much for attending this session. Your attention, your importance is very much there in this session. Without your presence and motivation, I cannot perform actually. If you have any questions, definitely put me in the comment box. I'll give you the answer. And by chance you have liked this session, definitely don't forget to press the bell button to get the alarm. Subscribe it if it is not done yet, and also don't forget to press the like button so that more viewers, more motivation for me. Remember, once again I underline it, your feedback is very very important for me. And next week we'll come back with another one crashing problem with detailed calculation of different kind of slopes, slack and relax, and then on the basis of that how to crash the project. So then our entire practicing will be done. Till then, thank you very much. Take care and bye bye.